Good afternoon. I'm Sandy Stimpson and would like to welcome you to the second virtual town hall meeting regarding redistricting. When we started this process a few weeks ago, I pledged to you that me and my administration, we would make sure that it was both inclusive and transparent. In order to make sure that we would do the very best that we could for all of the citizens, we looked across the state of Alabama to find out what was the best model, which city was doing the best job with transparency. And as it turns out, it was Huntsville and Auburn. So we took some of the things that they had previously learned and we've incorporated into our process. Over the last few weeks, we've worked closely with the City Council to make sure that we understood the things that were important to them, but also to make sure they understood the process going forward. And the effort is to build consensus as we go forward. And it's not just consensus with the City Council, it's also with the citizens. We're committed to providing the City Council with transparency tools as we continue these conversations. These tools are developed to make sure that you understand how the redistricting process moves forward and how you can play what-if games as you move population from one district to the next. During this town hall, our team is going to provide you with an overview of the redistricting process. We'll discuss the transparency tools, and we'll also tell you how you can stay engaged. We're committed to complying with the Voting Rights Act, to complying with the Zogby Act, to working with the City Council, to making sure that all citizens have a chance to weigh in, and also ensuring that our districts are a reflection of the city's population. During the process of the program this afternoon, if you have any questions, please go to the comment section under the video and just fill in the comments at that point, and we'll be able to take your questions. So at this time, what I would like to do is kick it to Anitra Henderson for further explanation. Anitra?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Anitra Henderson, Executive Director of External and Community Affairs. And we have a small presentation for you to talk a little bit about redistricting, what it is, and how we're moving forward. So if we can go to the slideshow, that would be great. So, as Mayor Stimpson said, we have been working on this for the past 2 weeks, and we've talked to citizens, and a lot of them were a little confused about what we're doing and where we're going, so we wanted to go ahead and put this together. So, what is redistricting? Redistricting occurs after each census to ensure that political representation reflects the population change. We know that the 2020 census data reflected that we did lose population. And from the population that we do have, we do know that there has been a migration westward in our city. So as a result of that, the districts as they exist are unbalanced. And that is what redistricting does. It balances back our city. So we've heard the term reapportionment, we've heard the term redistricting, and people want to know, is it the same? It is very similar. Redistricting is drawing new boundaries, where reapportionment is specifically talking about reassignment of representation. And so with the shifting of population, the drawing of new boundaries, it may reflect where people who voted for one city councilman may now have a new city councilman. So reapportionment may happen through redistricting, but what our city is doing is drawing new boundaries through redistricting. So let's talk a little bit about the process. So once we receive the 2020 census data, the mayor directs the city attorney to put a team together. That team consists of the GIS department and a legal team. The legal team has to work within the boundaries of being compliant with the Voting Rights Act, And one of the things we wanted to do is have the least disruption to the voting districts. So again, those voters who voted for their city councilman in August, we want to make sure that we kept them with their current city councilman as much as we could. And from there, the team came with a draft of a map. Again, you will see various versions of different maps, and came up with the population data and the voting data. And so right now, what we'll do is turn it to our Chief of Staff, Jim Barber to talk a little bit about the guidelines and the checklist. Jim?
Thank you, Nitra. And again, I'm Jim Barber. I'm Chief of Staff to Mayor Sandy Stimpson. And so when we talk about the Voting Rights Act and we talk about the state Zogby Act, which has formed our form of government, and we also talk about federal and state voting laws. The main thing that happens, though, or the first step that happens by the administration, based on the 2020 census, is to balance the population between the 7 districts. As Anitra has already covered, we did lose population. You do have a western migration, and I'll show you some of that data here shortly. So in a simple way, you just take the total population of the city, divide by these 7 districts, and you come up with a mean average of 26,740 people, somewhere up in there. And then we allow a standard deviation of about 6%, so that we can take in entire neighborhoods. One of the things we have to protect against is any cracking or fracturing of neighborhoods and communities. And those district lines have to be based on significant geographical boundaries like the center of roadways or creek beds, railroad tracks that are well defined. And so the other thing that we had to protect against once we balanced that population is that we began this process with 3 majority-minority districts. And we had to make sure we had no retrogression, which means we had no negative impact on those districts and that we kept them majority-minority. Also, what we found when we did the redistricting on the new one, that we found that we now have gone to 4 majority African-American districts with a 5th district being majority-minority, again, showing the change of demographics within the city itself. So the legal team is led by the former city council attorney, Jim Rossler, who handled the last 2 redistrictings after the 2000 census and 2010 census for the city of Mobile. So on the next page, what you will see is the actual demographic data of the city as well as the total population. And on the far left corner are the districts themselves, the 7 districts within the city of Mobile. And then in the light column, you'll see the 2020 census data as it has been applied to our districts within their current boundaries. The shaded column, or the green column, is the proposed 2.3 map that has been distributed or publicly distributed, which shows the balance of the population. And then as you go further along, you'll see the impact to the population as based on the demographics, as far as the white population, black population, and other population, and specifically how they affect the districts. The bottom table that you're looking at is based on voter age population, which is also collected. It's not required that we balance by voter age, but it's one data point that every elected official wants to take a look at. On the next slide, you'll see a map of the city. The 7 districts are color-coded into 7 different colors. You will notice a purple border, and it might be a little difficult to see, but there is a purple border that represents the district lines as they currently exist. The shaded areas that you see on outside of that purple line indicates areas of proposed to go into the district, which would be the redistricting itself. So when you look at like District 1, you'll see there's a migration to the west at the north part, the top part of the district, and as well as, and that's the blue area. I don't think it's indicated on here which one is which. But you'll see that same type of movement happen in districts 1, 2, and 3, where you have that western migration. Again, referring back to the table, that the loss of population occurred in districts 1, 2, and 3, which are easternmost districts, as that migration begins west. So on our next steps, once completing this portion of it, is that we're working pretty steadily with the council on trying to get a map that we have a general consensus on before the February 12th deadline, in which the map has to be placed by ordinance on the city council agenda. From that date, or the date that they receive it, they have another 6 months to take public comment and also to redraw district lines if there is consensus to do so. After the plan is submitted, again, to 6 months. So with that, we also, in an effort to be transparent and inclusive of everybody, The GIS department has worked pretty tirelessly on an interactive map that allows the general public as well as other elected officials or anyone of interest in the districting process to be able to go to the interactive map and interact and look at census tracts and get the demographic data. With that, I'm going to flip to my special assistant, David Mayhall, and he'll demonstrate how that interactive map actually works.
Thank you, Jim. Like Jim said, my name is David Mayhall. I've been helping throughout this redistricting process, working with GIS to put together this interactive map. So this is currently accessible on our website at cityofmobile.org/redistricting-2022. And excuse me, I think we have a technical issue.
I don't have your website. The website, I've still got the PowerPoint. You got to shut it
Okay.
down. So it's on the second monitor.
You see it?
Close the PowerPoint. There we go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. So what you're seeing here is a map of Mobile. It looks just like a standard Google Maps map. And we wanted to give citizens access to this map to where they can play around with the existing city council districts as well as the proposed city council districts and really dig deep into the population density and demographic data. So I'll just flip through this so that everybody has a good understanding, especially for folks that want to submit questions, and this will be a good reference point for you. So what you're seeing here, the blue lines and the green stars, the blue lines are the existing city council district lines. This is what city councilors in the last election were elected into. This is the product of the previous redistricting process in 2010. These are the current lines. The green stars are where the city councilors live. We made a great effort to keep each city council person in their respective district. So we thought it was important to show these stars just to show everybody the kind of constraints we had as we were drawing these maps. So as you can see with the blue lines, if you click on District 6, for example, out in West Mobile, you can see that with the current population from the 2020 census, that District 6 is far away from that 26,000 mean population that we're targeting. So what we had to do, of course, was to make District 6 geographically smaller to balance that population. So what you'll see now with the orange lines, these are the proposed new city council district lines that we have informally proposed to city council. So keeping with the District 6 example, you can see if you click on the orange line that it is now balanced to reflect the redistricting process. So it's now at that target of around 26,000. And this really shows how the population trends we've seen with people moving towards West Mobile. On the flip side, in District 1, which has had population loss over the years, if we click on the blue line, you can see that with the 2020 census numbers that they've actually lost population. So they are below that 26,000 average. So what we did, we redrew it to make it closer to that 26,000 average. Another really cool filter on this map shows the population density in each district. So what you're seeing now is total population. The darker areas are heavily dense populations, while the lighter areas are lightly populated. You'll see white areas like this, which is where no one lives. For example, this is the I-65 corridor north of downtown Mobile. And this application really allows you to dig deep into the granular census data. So these parcels here that are all drawn out are individual census tracts. So you can click on different tracts and you can see how many people live in each zone, which gives people good access to all this data. The filter here is total population. We can also filter by demographic data. So here is black population, and here is white population as well. So these are the maps. We think this is a great tool for citizens to get as much information about the redistricting process as they can. We also have on the portal here, we'll have archives of previous versions of maps. As the mayor and Chief Barber mentioned, there are discussions every day about how we can better this process. And we've asked our GIS department to update this page every Wednesday to reflect any necessary changes to the map. And as those changes are made, previous versions of the map will live here in this archive tab. We also have some helpful information to guide you through this process as well. And finally, on the homepage here of the map, we have a link that you can submit feedback. If you click on the link, it'll create a form. You'll submit all this information, and it'll go to a website that's being monitored by our city staff, and we'll follow up with you. Another opportunity to submit feedback, will be to send an email to redistricting@cityofmobile.org. So this is a great map. We have some other transparency tools that Anitra will then dig into, so I'm going to hand it back over to her.
David, and as David said, please go and try and use our interactive map, our tool. Definitely use the feedback survey portion. And one of the things that we have, not just the city website, but trying to be more inclusive, exactly being transparent, are a redistricting newsletter. So if you have signed up for Mobile Momentum, you should have received that tonight. And then the mayor's weekly newsletter, there will be the most up-to-date information in there as well. We also will have community meetings for those who are not tech savvy or those who want to actually come out into the community and learn this same information. We will have 7 meetings set up between January the 31st and February the 9th, which will have the same information that we are discussing today. And for those who want to go home, take the maps home, actually look through them, we will have redistricting toolkits. Those toolkits will consist of an FAQ sheet to tell you a little bit about the map, also to answer some of the questions that you may have, as well as the most up-to-date version of the map that we have, and a population data sheet. It will also have the feedback survey form, so you can take it home, look at it, write down your information, and send it back to a community center or a library. Again, if you have any questions, you can always send them to redistricting@cityofmobile.org. And don't forget, you can always put questions in the comments area. I know we do have one question that has already been asked. The first one that has been asked is, excuse me, does this redistricting, affect the school system? No. Every area has their own redistricting. The school board has their own, the county commission has their own. This redistricting process focuses on our city council districts. The second one, I'm going to send it over to you.
So,
Go ahead.
So we do encourage you to explore our interactive redistricting tools and submit your feedback. And we thank y'all for attending tonight. And are we able to take questions on this?
We do. I'm going to give you one question now.
Okay.
So what are the stars on the map?
All right, the stars that you see on the interactive map or any of our maps are indicative of the residences of the councilmen that have been elected, that are currently elected in their districts. And so we're very mindful not to actually move the lines to where they no longer belong in their own districts, which elected them to office just here recently.
Okay. That was the only question we had.
Only one
that
question.
That means we did a really, really good job, huh?
That's why you got the stars.
That's why you have the stars. Well, again, we want you to get involved. Please attend those meetings, explore our interactive tool, give us some feedback, let us know how we're doing, and if you have a question, please send it to us. So on behalf of Mayor Stimpson and our staff, have a wonderful afternoon.